For 40 years, Gary Burghoff stayed quiet about what really happened on the set of MASH. He smiled at conventions. He signed autographs. He let fans believe the 407th was a happy family. But in 2025, at 82 years old, he finally broke his silence. He talked about the arguments, the rewrites that pushed him aside. The co-star he believed worked behind the scenes to shrink his role. In the moment he realized he could either be rich and famous or be a father, but not both. What he revealed changed everything fans thought they knew about one of television's greatest shows. Gary Burghoff arrived in the world on May 24, 1943 in Bristol, Connecticut, carrying a challenge he never asked for, but would grow to overcome. He had Poland syndrome, a rare condition that appears in only about 1 out of every 20,000 people. 3 fingers on his left hand were half their normal size, and kids noticed. They pointed and joked, and even at home music, felt the weight off parents who did not always understand him. Yet something inside him kept moving. His mother, a professional dancer, saw he needed a place to put all that restless energy. She pushed him toward tap dancing and music. And with each small step, he began to feel a little stronger. The syndrome had been named after an English surgeon in 1841 and was far more common in boys. But for Gary, it became a doorway he refused to let close on him. He grew up with the belief that he could shape his life even if his hand could not be shaped the way others expected. So he stepped into music, tap dancing at 5, and learned his rhythm straight from his mother's lessons. As he grew, the tapping led him toward drums. And by 10 he had mastered both. He formed a jazz trio called the We Three, and they played around Wisconsin like they had something to prove. Gary had to adjust his grip and pressure because of his small music fingers, but the challenge only gave him a rhythm that felt personal and powerful. Soon he found himself behind a drum kit in Las Vegas with a band called The Relatives, sharing the stage with young Linda Carter. Music gave him a voice when his hand tried to take one away. It helped him claim respect in rooms where people sometimes stared before they listened. His early stage life began with a little surprise, too. He played Bobby in The Boyfriend at Belelfree Players Theater while his mother worked as the choreographer. Music, a guidance counselor warned him that acting would never be stable, but Gary listened to his own pulse instead. After high school, he left for New York City with big hope and very little money. He trained at HB Studio under Sandy Meisner, James Tuttle, and Charles Nelson Reilly. And to stay alive, he sold underwear at Saks FTH Avenue during the day and played jazz in nightclubs at night. In 1967, he found the role that would change everything. He became Charlie Brown in the original off-Broadway production of Ira Goodman, Charlie Brown. He performed more than 1,000 shows in New York and Los Angeles, building a reputation on persistence and heart. Critics praised him. The outer critics circle gave the production an award, and for the first time he began to see what might be possible. The next shift in his life came as the Charlie Brown run moved to Los Angeles. Robert Altman happened to see him on stage at the Ivar Theater in 1968. Something in Gary's innocence, his quiet, nervous charm, caught Altman's eye. Even though Gary had no film experience, Altman invited him to test for the 1970 MASH movie. At that point, Gary had performed more than 1,600 times as Charlie Brown, often earning only $50 a week, scraping by in Manhattan by sleeping on couches or skipping meals. But suddenly, a director saw him, and that opened a door. He beat out more than 200 actors for the role of Radar O'Reilly. His gentle awkwardness fit the character perfectly, and his real hand deformity added an unexpected vulnerability. Altman surrounded the cast with real Vietnam veterans to give the Fox Ranch scenes a sense of truth. Gary worked in the heat and dust of those chaotic music days, blending innocence into a story full of cynicism. His ability to stay steady in that atmosphere impressed Altman, who later said Gary gave the film its emotional center. That performance led directly to the TV version. 2 years later, life after the movie was still a grind. He kept drumming in jazz clubs and continued selling underwear during the day. He turned down easy TV roles because he wanted control over the work he did. People around him sometimes thought he was making a mistake. But Gary was building himself slowly. piece by piece, with the same determination he had as a boy learning drums with 3 small fingers. His choices kept him true to the kind of artist he wanted to be. Then the MASH producers came calling. They needed a radar for the CBS pilot. In 1972, Gary walked in for the audition and director Gene Reynolds said he entered the room looking wide-eyed, exactly like Radar would. Without trying, he radiated the same unsure charm. He was cast on the spot. It shocked the industry because he wasn't a known actor yet, but the connection between him and the character was so natural that no one could ignore it. During the first season, he earned only $1,500 per episode, even as the show started to gain Emmy attention. He didn't ask for special favors to hide his hand. Instead, he used a clipboard or props when needed, letting his imperfection become part of the character's realism. Audiences felt the honesty in that choice, and Radar quietly became the emotional anchor of the early seasons. The teddy bear that Radar carried wasn't handed to him by the studio. Gary found it among unused props one day and simply decided Radar needed it. The bear became iconic and decades later sold for more than $14,000 at auction. Gary also had lived lines that stuck in the show's DNA, including the famous "You Major Houlihan." The writers trusted him because he always softened the room in exactly music the right way. By 1973, he had his first Emmy nomination. He refused offers from other shows to stay focused in MASH because he wanted Radar to grow with consistency and care. As the country protested the Vietnam War, audiences connected deeply with the mix of humor and heartbreak the show offered. Gary helped give it heart. He would go on to earn 6 Emmy nominations and win in 1977. Music never left him either. By season 3, he renegotiated for fewer episodes so could keep playing jazz. His drumming in the MASH set was real, especially in episodes like Showtime where his solo was recorded live. Castmates were stunned by his talent, music, and sometimes amused by his intensity behind the drum kit. He balanced acting with music the same way he always had balanced everything in life, using one passion to fuel the other. Gary Burghoff won the Primetime Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series in 1977. Yet, when his name was called on September 11, he wasn't even in the building. Alan Alda went on stage and accepted music it for him while the cameras searched for the winner who wasn't there. Gary had chosen a quiet family vacation instead of the biggest night of his career. People in Hollywood talked about it for days because it felt like he had stepped away from celebrity culture without saying a word. He had been nominated 6 times for the same award and only won once. But even then, he showed that family mattered more than trophies. Fans loved him for that choice because it made him feel real. On set though, real life didn't always feel gentle. During a stressful shoot in the early 1970s, tensions rose between Gary and Wayne Rogers, who played Trapper John. The moment hit its peak when Wayne, frustrated that Radar's goofy timing, music, was interrupting a dramatic scene, flung a chair in Gary's direction. It didn't hit him, but it froze everyone. The clash revealed how differently they worked. Gary moved with a soft, almost fragile innocence, while Wayne relied on quick improvisational energy. The grind of filming 25 episodes a season had a way of pushing nerves to their limit. Years later, Gary admitted that moments, music, like that stayed with him because they showed how hard everyone was trying to hold a perfect tone in a hectic environment. As the show grew bigger, Gary's desire to shape Radar grew, too. He had been nominated 6 times for his work, and that kind of recognition pushed him to ask for more say in the scripts. He wanted deeper moments, richer arcs, more chances to show Radar's heart. Alan Alda, already shaping much of the show's creative direction, didn't always agree. Their disagreements grew louder, and Gary started saying Alda had a god complex. The rewrites that followed left Gary feeling pushed to the side. By his 8th season, he was drained and convinced that the character was no longer growing. Leaving the show felt like the only option he had left. While all this happened on camera, something very different, music, was happening off it. Gary had filmed 168 episodes of MASH as Radar, but in his private life, he spent just as much time tinkering with inventions. He worked on fishing lures and eventually patented one called Chamagic, Turning a hobby into a product, his mind never stopped jumping to ideas, even when he was hiding behind Radar's sweet smile. He would show up to set thinking about his latest design while everyone else thought he was memorizing his lines. This small private world became his balance, music, a place where he could be completely himself. His fame in the late 1970s was huge. He endorsed BP Gas and I-Beam computers and made around $10,000 per episode, music, by 1978. Yet, when premieres and parties invited him in, he often ignored them and went to drum at local clubs instead. It confused agents who believed he should be everywhere. But Gary kept choosing the quieter path. He cared more about his music and his family than industry applause. Those choices shocked people, but also made him stand out as someone who refused to let fame rearrange his values. By season 7, the cost of those long filming days began to show. Gary arrived on set with headaches, aching muscles, and a heavy fog of exhaustion. His marriage was falling apart at the same time, and the sadness he carried mixed with the pressure of playing a character full of innocence. In his book years later, he admitted that the strain often led to outbursts followed by guilt. He loved the character but felt physically and emotionally drained. As the seasons went on, his role shifted. Radar had once been the emotional heartbeat of the show. But by 1978, the scripts tilted him toward comic relief. Gary could feel his range shrinking. Alan Elda's influence on the writing was growing and Radar's deeper moments were fading. That shift pushed Gary further toward the exit because he no longer felt seen as an actor. The sweetness the audience adored became a weight he had to carry, and he wanted more than that. Meanwhile, his daughter Gina was growing up without him. She was born in July 1975 and he missed her first steps and early milestones because he was filming nearly every day. He later said that you either want to be rich and famous or you want to be a daddy. And he learned the hard way, music, that it was almost impossible to be both. His regret grew, especially as his marriage slipped toward divorce in 1970.